Hi guys, and welcome back to this next tutorial. I'm really happy that you're back, especially after the last lesson. Today we're going to be going over some smart munitions, and we're going to start utilizing everything we've learned up to this point. And today's lesson, we're going to be going over the GBU-12s, GBU-38s, and the CBU-97s. Let's get started. Alright, so I have the objective in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and switch to Steerpoint 1. There it is right in front of me. And let's go ahead and put our targeting pod on, and let's make it our soy. And trying to head forward long and slave our targeting pod directly to the steer point. And if I zoom in with DMS up long, we now have a whole bunch of stuff to kill. So I'm going to go ahead and select this guy. And I'm going to trying to head forward short. Good. Now remember, I don't want to target here, because if I do that, I'm going to actually look through the tank and on the ground behind him, right? And this is based on the previous lesson we just had. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and either designate the wheelbase, which will set a speed down right underneath it, or I'm going to go ahead and just press TMS up short, go to point mode, and when we get closer to this thing, and it's just going to lock on and stay stuck to this vehicle. Because the GBU-12 is a 500-pound laser-guided munition, and we're obviously going to be utilizing the laser. So with the targeting pod on, the other thing I want to make sure is that I got the laser armed, which I do, and obviously I have the L at the bottom, so I know if the laser is armed or not. The only other thing we have to do is now talk about how to set up the weapon profile. Yes, we have to go and dive a little deeper into the DSMS. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the DSMS or DSMS. And I can either select the weapon and hit profile to enter the profile, or if I don't have anything selected, I go to profile and I'm going to scroll down to the GBU-12 and then hit view profile. Either way, we hit the same page. Here, you don't have to do anything other than change the mode over to CCRP, because, you know, we want to utilize that smart way of delivering this bomb, and that's CCRP, so hit that. Now, before we hit save, there's actually something else we got to change, and we're going to enter a sub-page. I'm going to change some more settings by hitting this button, and now we have a bunch of other stuff here. So, now, this tells you what the current profile setting for the bomb is. You don't really have to worry too much about what's going on here, and you don't have to worry about it. A lot of these options here. The only things that we're really concerned with is to turn the auto lays on, and to set an LS time. With auto lays on, the targeting pod will automatically fire the laser at a predetermined time. We just have to tell it what that time will be. I'm going to go ahead and enter 1.5 into scratch pad of the UFC. Good, it's there. And I'm going to go ahead and select LS time. Good. So I have the auto lays on. It's set for 15. Now I can hit save. Good. If I go back to DSMS, the weapon profile should be saved. Okay, so how about we do a really quick explanation on how this is going to work. All right, so welcome back to Paint. Now, the way that we're going to actually drop this is that we need to be flying at least a certain altitude. You have to give the bomb some time to guide itself over towards the target, right? Now, when you designate the target, right, you set a speed down, the computer's going to do the calculating for you in order to drop the damn thing. So you don't really have to do anything. You just press and hold the weapon release button once you're flying over the target. And it's going to go off, and then the auto lays is going to kick in on its own. Now, the reason why we don't want to lays automatically as soon as you drop the weapon is that the bomb will start to wobble as soon as it finds the laser to try and correct itself for the trajectory to hit the target. And if you are far away and up high and you start lasing, the bomb is going to overcorrect way too much, and it may just burn all of its energy prior to hitting the target, and it will probably fall short. This doesn't always happen. If you're at a certain altitude and you laze right away, it'll probably still hit it, but especially if the vehicle is moving and you're lasing, it's going to burn way too much of that energy, and it's probably going to fall short. So the way that we do this is that the weapon gets released, and the weapon goes into a ballistic stage, where it's just free falling. It's not being guided. It's still falling in the general direction of where the target is. And then, at that predetermined time that we set, which is 15, which is 15 seconds prior to the bomb hitting the ground, the laser will turn on automatically, and the bomb will start to guide itself using that laser towards the target. So that's what that 15 stands for. Okay, so armed with that knowledge, now what we need to do is make sure that we've set a speed down here. So I'm going to go ahead and press TMS up long. Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom, I'm done.
And now what we need to do is actually select a bomb. I'm going to go ahead and hit GBU-12. And there's automatically a problem. I don't know if you see it. You should see it. If you don't, you haven't been paying attention. This is our steering line. And as you can see, it is dashed. And what did I tell you about a dashed steering line? That means it's in CCIP. But why? I mean, we just set it up for CCRP. So why is the CCIP line showing up? It should look like this. But that's not what we're seeing. Instead, we're seeing this. Well, the problem with DSMS is that, well, there's this tiny, itty-bitty, itsy little tiny major huge fucking problem with the DSMS, and that is that whenever you manually select something by clicking on it or through the DSMS, what you're doing is that you're going to access the default weapon profile. And what's the default weapon profile for the GBU-12? Well, if I go to profile, it's CCIP, and none of these settings are set. That is an issue, and that's something that many people will screw up all the damn time. And the way that we're going to get around this is that we're going to access this weapon profile through a HOTAS command. We need to make our heads-up display soy. So I'm going to go press coolie head up short. There's the star. Cool. Now I need to make sure that I am in either navigation or CCIP or CCRP mode, and I'm switching this with the master mode button, but not guns. So as a side note, the reason why you want to make sure you're in either navigation or you're in CCIP or CCRP when you press DMS left and right is that if you go into guns and you press DMS left and right, it is going to change your gun pipper site, remember? It's going to go into that fixed site and then cycles back to that CCIP site. So don't be in guns when you do this. Navigation, CCIP, or CCRP. All right, so let's go to navigation, for instance. And as we're looking at the DSMS page with the navigation here set on the heads-up display and the heads-up display set as soy, I'm going to hit DMS left or right short. As you can see, I am scrolling through all of the available weapon profiles. And when I select the GBU-12, take a look at this. It automatically selected the CCRP profile because that's what we set it up, and then it's accessing it. So when I manually clicked here and I accessed the default weapon profile, it didn't erase the profile that we saved. The saved profile is still there, but we just didn't access that saved profile. We can only access that saved profile through this HOTAS command. So we did it through the HOTAS. We have the weapon selected. It selected both of our GBU-12s. We can always just make sure by going to the profile page and seeing the profile. Yes, CCRP. If I go to change settings, the auto lace is there and the LS time is there. Okay, cool. Gonna return. All right, and now we're ready to go. Okie dokie, now that we have that out of the way, let's take a look at the heads-up display. You're gonna see that we have this steering line. And this steering line will always line us up with the thing that we're trying to kill, right? So there's our targeting pod. That's what our speed is set to right now, not the waypoint. And then we have this line with the ball going through it. So what's going to happen is that I'm going to want to align this line with this line and then fly towards it. And then up here, you see this circle. It's going to start with a 20-second countdown timer. And then when it reaches 10, the ball is going to start moving down. And as it reaches down, and then goes through the center and hits this center dot, it will drop the bomb as long as you've held and pressed that weapon release button. Now, here's the thing. Do not let go of the release button as soon as the ball goes through the center. Press, hold, wait until the bomb leaves, and then let go. If you try to do that, if you try and let go right at the second that the bomb's supposed to drop, you're going to get a hung storage warning. You're going to have an armed fused bomb at the side of your wing that's just hanging off the side of your pylon. So make sure you press and hold it all the way through. Got it? All right, let's put this into practice. It's really easy. I'm going to go ahead and speed up. And you see I'm turning to the left a little bit now that I'm sort of lined up. You see how this line is not perfectly aligned with this line? Well, we're going to correct to the left a little bit.
There you go. And now these lines are overlaid over the top of each other. So as long as these lines are within the circle's area, you're fine. If it's outside of it, you might not be able to drop the bomb. So just letting you know. Okay, there's a countdown timer. It started off at 20. It is now counting down. I'm going to do the best that I can to align myself with the steering line over here. And might as well just go ahead and put the total velocity vector on the horizon. There's no need to climb anymore. There's 5 seconds for... I'm going to press and hold the weapon release button. Bomb is away. I can let go. I can go to my targeting pod. Switch to it. There's 15 seconds and now it's lasing. And I'm a little bit off, so I'm just going to move the targeting pod over here. I'm going to hit him right in the head.
Boom. Hit shot.
Okay, so that's the GBU-12. Very simple, very easy. The next thing we want to do is go over to the GBU-38s. So I'm going to go ahead and obviously I can either manually press it or I can just go up to my heads-up display, make sure I'm not in guns, and press DMS right until the GBU-38s are selected. Now for the 38s, the profile, there's really nothing there. We're not going to change nose tail. It can only drop in CCRP. You cannot drop this GBU-38 in CCIP. Because remember, this is a 500-pound GPS-guided bomb, and GPS-guided bombs can only be released in CCRP. And if I go to change setting, really, I mean, there's some stuff over here that you could look it up in the manual, but you do not need to do anything. And because of that fact, you can also just simply select these bombs directly from here, because the default profile is the one that we're going to be using anyway. So there's a targeting pod. I'm going to go ahead and hit the other Strela right here. Zoom in a little bit. Good. And let's keep churning until I'm facing the target. You can see I'm still a couple of degrees off because the dot is over there, right? Oh, and there's our steering line. Now, the steering line is going to be a single steering line. We're just going to need to line up as best as we can with the middle of the heads-up display, which should be roughly like right here, because this is the middle. See how we've gone past it? And now we're going to look at this range scale over here. And as soon as this caret is inside the range scale from here to here, this is the available time that we can go ahead and start dropping this bomb. And what I could do is I could drop one bomb, and if there's another target right next to it, I can designate it, set it as SP, and drop it while I'm still within this drop zone. So I can drop multiple bombs this way. Now, we're going to be in range in 8 seconds. So once we're in range, only then am I going to press the weapon release button. But I'm just going to go back to the targeting pod, make sure that I designate the wheelbase here as SP, TMS up long. There we go. And I'm currently in range, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the bomb. Bomb's away. And this bomb will just simply glide its way over towards the target. Look how far away we are from the target. It's way down there, and we can still reach it. Now, these GBU-38s have a glide distance of somewhere around 8 nautical miles.
Kaboom.
It was really that easy.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
I have unlimited weapons turned on, so I'm going to go ahead and select both these bombs, and I'm going to drop 2 bombs now at the same target. So the higher you are, the better the chances of you dropping multiple bombs on these things. The lower you are, the smaller that range will be for you to drop these things. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead into a climb here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pick 2 of these A-10Cs that are close to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and designate this guy. Designate it. The caret is in range. I'm going to drop the bomb. 1 bomb's away. I'm going to zoom out real quick. Select this guy. TMS up long here. And drop the bomb. 2nd bomb's away. And if I had more GBU-38s, and I do because I have unlimited ammo right now, I'm still within range in the caret. TMS up long. Drop a bomb. And we should see the first bomb impacting here soon. Boom. Both those bombs hit, and the third last one should reach its target. Now, barely. We were so close over the target that that bomb barely had the time to really reach and make it there. because it's a 500-pound bomb and it was just close enough to that APC, it still managed to hit it. So the quicker you want releasing these bombs one after the other, after setting a speed down, picking a new target, setting a speed down, the more bombs you're going to be able to get off. I wouldn't worry about setting off more than 3 or 4 GBU-38s at a time, and that's basically what you can expect out of these things. And the GBU-38s are great because they're GPS-guided bombs. For instance, so let's say we're flying in really bad weather and there's just clouds all over the place and you cannot see the ground, but you have the coordinates for something, right? Perhaps the steer point is right over atop of a target. What you could do is you could just utilize those coordinates and drop a bomb right on those coordinates, right? So you can either make mark points on there if you see it visually with a targeting point, or we can use steer points. So right now I've slaved my targeting pod over to my steer point. My steer point is currently steer point 1. I'm going to move it over to steer point 2. My targeting pod moves over with it. And if I zoom in real quick, you'll see that I have this chopper set up. Now remember, I already have the steer points set as my SPI, so I don't have to press TMS up long, right? I'm using this as my attack point because I'm currently using the steer point as the SPI itself, right? I'm just going to line up properly. I within 1 second of dropping the bomb. There it is. I'm in range now. I have 58 seconds to be able to drop these things. And all I have to do is press pickle, bombs away. And there you go. And later on, when I teach you how to make your own steer points, we're going to use the CDU in order to make that. If for some reason you have the coordinates of a target, you could utilize that. We can punch in those coordinates. We can make a new steer point, right? We can make that our new soy. Let's say that new steer point we just entered through the coordinates is steer point 3. Cool. I'm going to move that to steer point 3, slave my targeting pod over to that steer point, and bam, it's going to be looking straight at that steer point. And then just fly towards it with the GBU-38 selected. There's my steering cue line. I'll just fly towards it until I'm in range, drop the bomb, and that's it. That's easy. So no problemo, this should not be an issue. Drop the bomb a few times and you'll kind of have it all figured out. There's not much to it. Now we're going to fly back to steer point 1 where I have all these other tanks over here. And we're going to now utilize the CBU-97s. So since I have a large cluster of vehicles over here, I'm just going to set this down right here. I'm going to press TMS up long to set a speed down right there. And let's go ahead and switch over to the CBU-97s. Cool. Now, because they're pretty tightly clustered around each other, the default settings for the CBU-97 is pretty much what you want. Except, of course, we probably want to drop this in CCRP. So I'm going to pause this really quick. So as you can see, the dashed line, which indicates CCIP, we don't want that. So we go into Profile, and we can change this to CCRP and save. That's it. Back to the dismiss. CBU-97 is still there. Now, we have the steering cue, and this will drop exactly like the GBU-12. It's going to have the countdown timer, blah, blah, blah. It's going to go down itself. So, now, remember we were changing the height of function for the CBU-87 when we're doing our guns training. We can do the same thing with CBU-97s. And we have to go into the inventory, select the CBU-97, go to CBU-97, and then we have our height of function. And I can cycle through and change it to what we want. I'm going to leave it at the default 1800. Press load, get back into the dismiss because that was still the inventory page. Make sure our CBU-97 is selected. But we've made a mistake. Remember, dash line. That's right. I accessed the default setting for the CBU-97. So we have to now go to the heads-up display. Make sure we're in CCIP or CCRP, DMS right, until we get the CBU-97. And we now have our profile. Good, and we're in CCRP. So let's go ahead and get over there, and you'll see exactly how this thing looks like. It's pretty dope. I like it when it works. There are times where this simply will not work as well as it should. It's really at the mercy of like RNG Jesus. So there's 3, 2. I'm holding the weapon release button. Bombs away. Autopilot's on. Let's check out what's happening here.
The bomb will banana peel, exposing these cylinders. Now these cylinders will then detach from the main body. A parachute is deployed which slows them down and stands them upright. At this stage, these keys will slide out and a charge goes off which spins the cylinder. The centripetal force flings the skeets out in all directions. Now, as the skeet flies through the air and spins, they have a sensor on this side that is actively looking for legitimate targets on the ground. Once it detects something, it detonates, and the shaped charge slices straight down through the target.
So you can see a single CBU-97 just took out a lot of stuff right now. Now you may be tempted to grab a whole bunch of CBU-97s. Why should you do all this work with a whole bunch of 3 racks of GBU-12s and spend all of that weight and time when you can just use CBU-97s? Well, the reality of the situation is that I've set up those targets down there very nicely clustered. However, in reality, especially when you go into a multiplayer server, you're gonna find that these things are not that tightly clustered together. So once in a blue moon, you're gonna come across an area that will benefit from having a CBU-97, and then other times you're really gonna need to use individual weapons for individual tanks. So it does help to have a CBU-97 on hand if, let's say, you know that there's going to be a cluster of stuff there, but because of that really high drag on these cluster bomb munitions, yeah, it's really not worth bringing a whole bunch of them. And it wouldn't be worth bringing a triple rack of GBU-12s either unless you really like being a heavy bus, because they also create drag and they're gonna be very, very heavy. Now you may be wondering why we're not going over any of the other weapons, and that's because their delivery system is literally the same of what we've just seen.
So this is just a very quick visual breakdown of the bombs you have available for the A-10. The reality is this. Your choice is to bring either a 500-pound or a 2,000-pound bomb. And from those two options, either as a DOM bomb or the JDAM or a laser format. That is basically it. So for instance, the Mark 82 is just a 500-pound DOM bomb. If you want that in the JDAM format, well, that's just a GBU-38. If you want that as a laser-guided bomb, well, that's just a GBU-12. There's really no need to go to the 2,000-pound bomb unless you are really taking out a large bunker structure. All of the guided 500-pounders will take out every single vehicle as long as you hit it. So if you're wondering which bombs to equip, well, the GBU-12s and the GBU-38 are really the two best choices. The GBU-54 is the only oddball because it drops like a GBU-38, but if you wish, you can fire the laser to update its target position. Then just bring a CBU-97, or better yet, a CBU-105, which is just a wind-corrected CBU-97, if you know that there will be a tight cluster of enemies on the objective. But since I've already shown you how to drop a DOM bomb, a GPS-guided bomb, and a laser bomb, you can basically drop any one of these munitions in the same exact manner.
Okay, and with that, we're going to end it over here. In the next lesson, we're going to be going over the Mavericks. Unfortunately, the Mavericks do require a bit more frustration in terms of HOTAS controls, so be ready for that one. These weapons were easy to use. The Mavericks may be just a little bit more frustrating for you, but hopefully we'll make it easy. Anyway, I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.